Hey everybody. My computer's acting a little slowly, so let me just make sure that it's capturing my lips moving and everything. Um, so hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Writing for Media online version. I also teach two in-person classes. My name is Tom Davis. I am the editor-in-chief, essentially, of I am editor, whatever, of Best Review, which is an insurance trade publication. We cover the world. So anyway, I'm very happy to join you. This is actually my favorite job, so I should just tell you that. Don't tell anyone. I also am a champion of dumb dad jokes. Um, so I am recording this a little bit early. I'm actually doing like a vacation, staycation, get ready for the semester and everything else for my job at Best Review, which is part of AM Best insurance rating agency. Um, And so you might see some stuff that'll be old news, like some of the news stories I'll go over by the time this is actually published on Tuesday. Um, but the important thing is that I just kind of lay out what's needed and what's expected, that sort of thing, for our class. So yeah, I've been doing the online thing since the pandemic. I was there in the spring of 20. I don't know, some of you might have been not even in college yet, or I guess you guys weren't even in college yet, and probably were like a high school or something. And when I was teaching an in-person class and another in-person class, and suddenly they told us to switch to this. So here we are, and ever since then, Rutgers has enjoyed giving out ongoing classes. So here we are. So I do the best I can to basically teach like as live as possible, as though you're like sitting in the class with me. Um, and we take it from there. And of course, I encourage feedback. There is actually a class participation grade in this class. I'll explain what that all means, because I want people to interact with me while we do this class. All right. I want to know you're there. So I don't take attendance or anything like that. I'm not allowed to. So um, I've been teaching at Rutgers since spring of 2004. So I'm actually reaching my 20th anniversary. How about that? And thank you for all your support, Rutgers students, for your regarding the union. Awarded us a very nice contract. I appreciate that. So anyway, that's okay. So Ready for Media, what is that? This essentially is the real, you may be required, I don't remember exactly if to take another journalism class before this one, but this is the essentially the introduction to journalism class. And yes, journalism still exists, in case you're wondering. So, and it may not be what we thought it was in the past. It may not be the traditional like newspaper or dead tree, as they call it, edition paper, that sort of thing. It may not be like even what you had in like high school as a journalism class, but it's there. Um, it's funny. I always like to point to Twitter as like the kind of like what basically what's emblematic of what journalism is like these days. But of course, Twitter is now X, so it's run by a maniac. I'm sorry, I have to say that. But it still does have produced news. There's also Threads, and there's Instagram, and all these other major news organizations use that. They use Facebook, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's still news produced. It's actually produced more widely than it's ever been. More people read it now than they ever. You may not realize it, but you do. I realize that it's had some hardships financially, that sort of thing with contraction. But there is actually there are a lot more news sources out there. So it's important for me to teach you the best, the most objective way to do it. Okay. I have essentially like three tenets, and I'm actually going to start to share the screen now that I have. Um, and I'm sorry, just keep it 1 second. Actually, first thing I want to do is I want to actually like ask everybody, make sure that I want to know everybody's out there, and this is part of the class participation. If you could please, and I'll include this in my note to you with the video. And these videos will appear every week. This is the only time it's going to appear on a Tuesday because of Labor Day, but they'll appear on Mondays. So that's essentially when we have our class. They'll appear once a week. Just give me 1 second here. And I want to know you're there. So first order of business, please email me at todavis@rutgers.edu. So I have your email address. I want to know, and your best email address too. I mean, maybe you prefer not using the Rutgers email. Okay, so I want to know. I want to make sure that we communicate and we get. I've had issues with that in recent years. People like use different resources for communication because there are different additional resources for communication than email, but I grade and communicate mainly through this and also through email. Okay, so and also I do use Canvas, so obviously, so I use that too. So these videos will be published. I'll be sending that out as an email. I actually make sure I just make sure the hell you get it. I send it out as email. I make it an assignment entry. So you get notified. You should sign up for notifications for Canvas. Okay. And also I send it also out as an announcement. Okay. So but please make sure that you email me. I know that there's a Canvas email too. I use that too, actually, as a way to send this to you, but I primarily communicate through the regular email. Okay. So that's I want to know what your email is. Okay. And the one that you use the most frequently. Okay. All right. So anyway, this is, like I said, this is the class where you'll learn how to write news. And now, the funny thing is that a lot of people kind of put down the media for what it is, and but the media is a literary form. Okay. News is the literary form. News writing is a literary form. It may not be exactly like what you think of in terms of like Ernest Hemingway or something like that, but it is the most popular literary form. And I mentioned X before. Well, X, despite the megalomaniac who runs it, is still like this is the most popular way. Like this and Facebook and Instagram are the most popular ways people actually get their news nowadays. So, and what they do is they essentially produce it in a way. The news comes across, and yes, a lot of it comes from people who may be phony or whatever, but the news organizations use it, and what they typically do is when they actually report the news, especially something like this hurricane that's going through Florida, right as I'm taping this, this computer, by the way, is 10 years old. It's an old reliable one, but it's just slow. I mean, this is how they put out their news. They put out their news. No, you don't want that. So they put out their news by basically just like a one-line thing. Okay. I'm just seeing actually if there's any kind of like, and what it is essentially, it comes across as what the book, and there's a book that comes with this class, and that essentially is the tell her, tell him, tell them type of technique of actually giving out the news. What would be like the first thing you would tell somebody if you were actually going to give them some sort of news? I mean, not just a hurricane, but maybe like somebody you knew like broke up with somebody, or maybe somebody got engaged or something like that. As the New York Times communicating in Spanish, I guess, and then we have a hurricane going through and they're giving out recipes. Here we go. Breaking news: Rudy Giuliani is liable for defaming 2 Georgia election workers by repeatedly saying that they mishandled ballots. This, by the way, that comes across very straightforward, very objective. It just basically says what happened. That's it. And no matter what you think about Giuliani or the Republicans or Trump, that is what happened, is that he was found liable. And you may disagree with what the judge said or whatever, but that is what happened. So this is how people, and then of course, you click through by basically clicking on the link right there. Okay. And then what you do is you ultimately produce this, Again, going very slowly. Hurricane Idalia, how you say it? This is the most popular reform, like I said. Hurricane Idalia made landfall Wednesday morning. Yes, it's Wednesday. I'm sorry. As a powerful Category 3 hurricane in Keaton Beach, located along Florida's Gulf Coast near Tallahassee. That's actually pretty far north. This is actually a lead is typically usually just this is a lead. A lead is the very first paragraph of a story. It basically tells you what you need to know. It tells you what the story is about. Okay. And a news writing story essentially is an upside down story. Well, the most important thing, the mystery is actually solved or revealed in the very first paragraph. Or now this is a multi-sentence paragraph, which you typically don't do, but basically it tells you what you need to know, everything, almost everything you need to know in the very first sentence or paragraph. And after rapidly intensifying on its pass through the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and briefly registered as a Category 4 storm, the hurricane hit Florida's Big Bend, blah, blah, blah. So then it goes on and provides more details about what happened, smaller, more minor details. We'll talk about that, how the most important thing is at the top of the story, and then the smaller, more minor details to help explain things kind of go through the rest of the story. You see how the paragraphs are also kind of short, typically no more than a sentence or two, okay? This is important stuff you're going to need to know because we actually have an assignment. It's an ungraded one, but I will get to that. That's actually going to be due on Monday, okay? All right. New York Times also reporting about the hurricane. Okay, so Hurricane Idalia moved quickly inland after making landfall on a sparsely populated stretch of Florida's coast on Wednesday morning, toppling trees and flooding fishing villages. Two reported deaths. It's one of the most important things that people usually want to see is actually like casualties, that sort of thing. It's horrible, but I think it's more than just rubbernecking on the highway. I think it's actually people actually really care and have compassion for what's happening. Okay. All right, so that's essentially what a news story looks like in a very general sense. We're going to zone in on that as we get deeper into the semester. And whoa, let's see that. I'm trying to get to my. There we go. What I really look for, I have 3 tenants. Okay. And yes, very slow computer today. Hello. Yes, no, we want an A. Accuracy. Things got to be right. Okay. I mean, you heard all the talk about fake news and all that stuff, but things got to be right more than anything. Yes, things got to be fast because everything's 24/7 now, but things got to be right. Otherwise, you're going to have no credibility. I'll talk about that. People think that like the worst thing about being inaccurate in a news story is that you're going to get sued. That's not true, actually. A lot of stuff gets misprinted that's inaccurate. It's actually just your freaking credibility. That's what matters more than anything. Okay. Making sure that whatever you produce as a news or media item is clear and focused, understandable from top to bottom, okay, of the story, okay? All right, so that's some general overview of what to expect from this class and what we're going to be concentrating on, okay? Just looking over my list here of things to go over. Let's go over the Canvas site and how that works, okay? So yes, even though I said that I like to email you directly, I do use Canvas's site. These are like lectures, old lectures that you don't have to worry about. You see, they're not even in the blue format because they haven't been published yet. Okay, but anyway, this is where the lectures will be published. Like I said, I also send them as an email. I make sure the hell you get it. Okay, there's actually a lecture section of the assignments, and you'll see. Actually, this is as you see, I haven't finished yet. This is where your new lecture is going to look like. It's going to be in blue. It's going to be posted by Tuesday morning. I post lectures on Mondays by 9, but of course the exception will be because of Labor Day this time Tuesday by 9. Okay. Then the assignments will fall in here. Okay. I'm sorry, the written assignments will be falling here. Okay. And then we actually have reading assignments. You see, they're in blue. They're all published because we actually do have a book. Okay. It's called it's actually like there's actually an online version that's you can get here. It's actually the last semester we're supposed to be using this, the 12th edition of Writing and Reporting for the Media. Okay. And you do have a first reading assignment. Okay. And That'll be chapters 1 and 2. Okay. As you can see right there, and I do go over I'm not a big reading the book guy, okay, but I do give out the reading chapters because actually I'm required to, okay. But I don't test people on them. You'll see that there's actually stuff at the end of the chapter that gives out assignments and stuff like that. Ignore those, okay. I actually, this is one of the honest thing that I always have a hard time explaining to people because they don't get it, because they think everything is transactional. I give out reading assignments, but I don't test you on. Why is that? Okay. Why would I give out reading assignments and not check? Well, I do check because to be honest with you, the reading assignments supplement what I talk about in the lectures. Okay. And my test or the reading assignment, I'm sorry, the written assignments. The written assignments, if you're not following the written assignments, I know you're not both following the lectures and you're not doing the reading assignments. That's how I can tell you're not doing the reading assignments. Get it? So if you're not following like what you're supposed to be doing, okay, in the written assignments, you're not following the lectures and you're not following the reading. You're not doing both. You're not doing either one. Okay. All right. Because I figure if you're not at least paying attention to the lectures, which I typically try to keep within like 45 minutes or something like that, okay, then you're definitely not following the reading. Okay. I mean, sorry, if you're not following, like, if you're not doing you figure you're doing either or, right? If you're doing the reading assignments right, or sorry, the written assignments right, okay, you're either doing the lectures and or the readings. Okay. All right, so let's look at the actual whole, the campus site as a whole. You will see that actually, and there's a syllabus. I'll talk about that too. All right. Actually, I'm sorry. I should have actually. Let me go back to the assignments for a second. Okay. I should have talked about that first. So before I go over the campus site as a whole, let me just talk about the assignment section, which is the most important section. Okay. So you'll see that actually the reading assignments have actually been published already, like I said. So if you want to read ahead, go ahead, but I do make them do like essentially week by week. Sometimes there's a case where it's like maybe like I'll give you 2 weeks, but you see that by September 11th, Monday, I'm asking you to read chapters 1 and 2. Okay. Now this hasn't been published as of this as I'm giving this lecture right here. So you can see it's Wednesday. So, but I do have this, but it will be published by Tuesday morning. Excuse me. This is your very first assignment. It's not graded. What I try to do is I try to get an idea, because some of you have had journalism classes, some of you have had experience in writing, that sort of thing, creative writing, whatever. It's not a creative writing class, by the way, okay? There's no, first of all, big thing is that there's no first person in this class, meaning no first person voice, no I and me in your stories, okay? Which is kind of contradicts a bit what this assignment's about, but I'll explain. Anyway, you are objective when you actually write about. That's all part of being accurate, is being objective, not being part of the story. Okay. Yes, there's first person journalism where people write about themselves and stuff like that. That's actually really like kind of a complicated form of writing that actually I feel it's very important for you to write in the third person first to really get to kind of like nail that down and basically learn how to be really objective. And it's actually, I think it's actually easier than saying I, and me in a story, which can be boring, okay, and even seem like self-absorbed. But anyway, so it's he, she, they, it, okay? Those are the pronouns I'm looking for, and of course also the person's name in our stories, is that you're writing about other people, okay, not us, okay? I'm not, well, that's actually a little bit complicated too, but I'll get into that. So anyway, I want you to write about other people, except for this assignment. This assignment's the only exception. It's not graded. What I want you guys to do is actually to write. It actually gives me an idea like where you're at. Again, like in terms of journalism, I don't grade it, but I want to see where you are. I provide some sort of feedback to kind of help, gear you in the right direction for the story for this semester. I want you to write a 5-paragraph profile. Typically, stories we're going to do in this class are going to be 500, 800 words. What I'm asking you to do is write a short 5-paragraph profile. And the paragraphs, by the way, need to be no more than a sentence or two, okay? As I showed you in the previous story on the hurricane, okay? A 5-paragraph story in the third person, okay? Because I want to make sure you get this right, on yourself, a profile on yourself in just 5 paragraphs. Yes. So that means that you have to basically, and news is about what's unique and new. News is the word news actually, but if you didn't know, is actually the plural of the word new. I actually didn't know that until like about halfway through my career. So anyway, see, what you want to do is you want to write a bit about what's unique about yourself. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like, you served in the war or something like that. Or, I'm just, or, you climb Mount Everest. I'm talking about just basically something. It could be like you could be working a couple of jobs to get yourself through school. That's not actually too unique anymore. But your situation could be more unique than any other person's, So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Sometimes the most unique thing about you, I run into this complication, maybe it happened like maybe 5-10 years ago, but news is again about what's new. So maybe like if you've gotten like some sort of bad accent or something like that like change your, but I want to know, did it change your life? How are you now? Are you around? Are you alive? Are you are you physically okay? Did it teach you a lesson? Did you learn something from it? Did it give you a whole perspective on things? Did you find religion because of it? I want to know about what's happening now, how that event from like 5, even 2 years ago affects you now. Okay. So anyway, that's going to be the first assignment. So this is ungraded, but it is mandatory. It gives me some idea where you are. And it also gives me an idea like how to teach this class, where to go maybe a little slower or maybe a little faster, or maybe you stay at the same pace I typically do. So, all right. So that's also due on Monday. Okay. You can see that September 11th is Monday. Okay. And you submit it through this assignment entry. All right. All right. So, all right. This is actually I should actually show you the student view. This is the student view. Oh, that's funny. It's actually like not giving me access. Anyway, I do not know why. So anyway, all right. So you'll see it in the student version. All right, so here's the Canvas site as a whole. This is the home page, okay? Which actually kind of acts a lot like the syllabus, but basically providing things I think a bit of context. Welcome Writing for Media and Instructional course, okay, for Department of Journalism and Media Studies. Okay, and then basically, news stories here, they're not just like, again, the traditional New York Times kind of story or something like that, but basically like, how it's used in social media. This is how we teach it here. Data journalism, arts review, I don't know so much go into that, but literary journalism, broadcast news, but a news story, but also social media, that sort of thing, okay? Different types of platforms they're all basically used. It's all basically written kind of the same way, and that is the most important news is at the top of the story, and then from there it trickles down throughout the story and provides detail and context. Okay. The instructor is Tom Davis. That's me again. T.O. Davis at Rutgers.edu. Semester fall 2023. We're asynchronous, and if you ever want to meet with me, let me know. I like to meet at night. I usually like Thursday night or something like that. But let me know. Sometimes I meet during my lunch hour, which I have one, believe it or not, at work. We used to have a professor by the name of Rachel Crimmins who used to do Writing for Media, and she's done some videos if you want to look at these. Okay, so again, Writing and Reporting for Media is our main book, and then the Associate Press Style Guide. I'm supposed to be getting a sign-in for that very soon, so I'll be sending it maybe by the time I post this. I'll have that. Okay, but the Associate Press Style Guide, what is that? That's basically news writing has its own kind of almost like style of language, and that is things like, okay, how do we the thing about news writing is that it's okay. So some people may call this dumbing down, but there's a very McDonald's type quality, I have to say, about it. And you know what? There's beauty and simplicity. I mean, being able to write to everybody, I would say 4th grade on up, is important and hard. Okay. I mean, think about it. Trying to be a teacher of a 4th grade class is hard. Okay. And why do they consider a fourth grade level reading? Because it's supposed to be written for everybody. Anybody who basically has gotten to a level where they can read and care about news and what's going on in their lives. Okay. Whether it's like they're being taxed to death, or whether, or maybe there's stuff going on at their school they need to know about. And you think about it, actually, like so many of you, probably all of you, have done like current event projects. When is that usually done? Like third or fourth grade, right? You usually have to pull out some sort of a news story or something like that. So, you're supposed to be able to read that. So there's simplicity in that. It's a language that everybody can speak, and that's the way, like, essentially McDonald's is, because like basically, you know, the Big Mac is supposed to be the same it is in New York City as or New Brunswick as it is in North Dakota. So you're supposed to be able to communicate with everybody on some sort of level, whether they're not intelligent or intelligent or whatever. So basically, there's a certain style to the way things are, so there's a certain consistency in the language. Like, for instance, this actually changed. Used to be at a consistent way of actually abbreviating state names in a story, and there still is actually, but sort of. But they actually have changed that now within the past year now. Now, actually, when you do something like Chicago, Illinois, you actually have to spell out the Illinois. So you don't do ILL or something like that, like the postal code. Okay. You actually have to spell out the name. So that's an example. Also, another one would be like where you try to develop a consistency in the way things are actually like written. Another one that actually like helps you identify is like, what do you do before a person's name was on the police force? Do you spell out captain, or do you abbreviate it? Well, you actually, according to the Associated Press style book, you abbreviate it to like CAPT period, Captain John Brown or something. Okay. All right, so that's what the Associated Press style book is for. Essentially, it's a dictionary of news terms and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. I mean, I used to provide quizzes on that, but actually for that, I just check to see if you're using that in the stories, and I actually could factor that into whatever grade I provide for your stories. Okay. All right. So I have an announcement section, which, things happen. I try to get that news to you. But I do that through email, but I also do it through announcements. I just try to make sure you know what's going on. This is also where I also put the I also put the lectures on here too. So I just make sure you get them, so there's no excuse. This is actually old announcements, so I will be sending a new one. Assignment section, I showed you that one. Okay. Where that is. Okay. The modules section. This is actually the guide that provides you some idea of where we are going week to week. Okay. So there is actually, see, this stuff is in blue already. So you'll see there's actually like assignments that this hasn't been posted yet as of this lecture making, but you'll see there's actually like some sort of a guidance that provides you like where we are in this during the semester if you want to follow along. Okay, course introduction. There it is right there. Okay. Which is where we're at right now. You see that there's different weeks that move along here. I have a rubric that I actually put under week 1, and I make it like a separate entry because basically I don't really talk too much about the grading end of things, because it's really better if you get an idea when you actually get your assignments back. Now, your very first assignment is not going to be graded or something like that, but basically I do provide an idea like how I actually go about things. Obviously, grading is going to be subjective in this class because I'm the editor, and I try to portray this as almost like the old-fashioned newsroom. I'm the editor, you're the reporter, and I basically determine, and it's actually very loosely done, is determining like how, whether a story is acceptable or not. Okay. I consider anything basically C and above to be an acceptable story. Okay. On my very first grade, again, very first assignment is not graded, but my very first graded assignment, I actually what I do is I give out I have you do essentially at least two drafts unless you get an A on first go. But I don't give out on the first draft, I don't give out a D or an F. Okay, I give out an R, basically saying that you have to rewrite the story. That's probably the best way for you to actually learn in this class, is not me blabbering throughout a 45-minute lecture on a video, but basically R, meaning rewrite. That means you have to rewrite it. And that's what you do in a newsroom. If something is debate, and what does that mean? That's basically something where I basically don't understand. There's no accuracy, clarity, or focus, or maybe there's not enough clarity or focus. I just basically don't really understand what the story's about. Okay, essentially, that's where we reach that level, and I have to do something. Okay, C and C plus is basically like where I understand essentially where the story is about. Maybe it's usually typically organizational issues where it doesn't flow in a very focused fashion. Okay, maybe it needs a little more substance, that sort of thing. B and above essentially is like the prime. Okay, where you essentially it's something what I would consider publishable already. Okay, or you could actually put it into a news organization or a news site or even on a Twitter feed or sorry X feed. But you maybe the B level just needs some editing, B and B plus level, B plus being less editing than the B level. And then the A is essentially publishable. And I'm not talking about New York Times here, but essentially accurate, clear, and focused, but like Patch, which is where I worked for 11 years, by the way. It's a news site that provides local information, like your local newspaper, Targum, that sort of thing. All right. So I'll get more into that as things go along. Now, the grading breakdown, I grade based on progress. I actually give out typically 7 assignments, okay, including the last one. And I'll get into this in the syllabus too, which repeats a lot of this, but the second to last assignment counts twice as much as each of these previous assignments, okay? And then the last assignment, which is the final assignment, which is the big one, counts 4 times as much as the early assignments. So what, and your writing grade is actually 70% of your overall grade. And yes, there's actually a class participation grade. That's 30% of your grade. Well, why do you have a class participation grade? Because I want to know if you're paying attention. I want to know if you're doing things like we have discussion points in this class, and we use those for actually resources for information we do for our stories since we don't have a classroom. If we had a classroom, I would probably have you guys interviewing each other. So instead, what I do is I actually have you participate in discussion points. Okay, that's one way I gauge class participation. I also, like, to be honest with you, want to make sure. I mean, when you hand in your assignments and you don't do it on time, that does factor into your writing grade, which I'll talk about, but it also factors into your class participation grade. I want to see that you're actually paying attention to what's going on in class. Okay, and you know that you're turning things in on time. So those are a couple of examples of like how participation matters. I want to know if you're like if you're maybe struggling in class or maybe like even not even struggling. I want to know you're asking questions and things like that, and then that you're doing things the right way. I only take things, by the way, the assignments on Microsoft Word. I want to know that you're paying attention to that. For some reason, a lot of people submit things on PDFs. No, I mean, there may be some way to grade on a PDF. I haven't found a way to do that, but when I grade an assignment, I actually go into track changes on Microsoft Word, and I do it that way. So please submit your assignments on Microsoft Word, okay? Don't do it on a Google Doc either or something like that. I mean, so I've had some people who can only do it on a Google Doc. I don't know why, but whatever. So I've made amends for that. That's fine. So like I said, so best case scenario is we're going to do 7 assignments. So what do I mean by like the last couple of assignments actually are graded more? Why grade on progress? Because a lot of people like go into this class and they have no idea what news writing is. They're like, what is that? You know, it's like they're used to writing about their summer vacation, doing creative writing. This is an objective sport here, okay? So I actually like try to basically teach you from the ground up what it is. So the very first assignment, not the ungraded one I'm giving out right now, but the very first graded assignment, which will be a profile assignment, but a different one, is 9.1% of your writing grade, okay? And the second one is that, the third one is that, the fourth one is that, the fifth one is that, and then, like I said, twice as much as one of these previous ones. That's your 6th assignment, okay? 18.2% of your writing grade, okay? And the major assignment, which we'll get into, is 4 times that. So it's 4%. So your last 2 assignments are more than 50% of your writing grade, which is 70% of your total grade, okay? So that's your rubric right there, okay? And it's under the first week of the modules. I put it there, not under modules, I put it there, okay? See, the second week, the first half of the semester, I deal more with actually learning how to write news writing, okay? Basically just getting the basics down to the writing structure, AP style, Yeah, media and ethics, whether you're getting things right or wrong, or morally right or wrong, okay? And then the second half of the semester, I actually get into more of the reporting end of things. That means actually like digging deeper and learning how to like look for things and find things and that sort of thing, and build and getting the information for your story. So we have, that's when we get into public relations writing, that sort of thing, data journalism, feature news, that sort of thing. Okay. And then your major assignment, I have you pick out your major assignment actually um, more than a month ahead of time. And that's due the last day of the class. That's actually essentially like a project oriented assignment. Okay. So you can see that there's actually dates attached to these so you can follow along. And there's a guide for each of these, week 2, September 11th, writing basics. Okay. You see the reading assignments are there too. I actually give I'll talk about this, but when we get to it next week, probably, but essentially like what I have for a typical story, what I look for in terms of structure. I actually talk more generally about what the structure is, then I get more specific about it as we go along. Okay. All right, so yes, and then I have the grades, I post those, okay? I have the syllabus section, yes. I put discussion points under the discussions, okay? I'll let you know about those. Actually, like I said, those usually like help provide information for your stories when I want. I typically like to rely on just basically interviews with people for stories, okay? Not like going undercover at the Broward Commons or something like that and trying to find like why certain foods a certain way, or like people like to say like I don't know, I would give out assignments like that. I would say like pick your own assignment, and like people will come up with the assignments like I'm gonna go under investigation or undercover investigation Broward Commons and find out why the cheeseburgers make people go to the bathroom or something like that. Yes, that's true. I've had people like do that, and I've been like, no, 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 okay. Just a lot of times people just want to know what's going on through people's heads. Okay, um, so I go for like the kind of reaction kind of story. Okay, all right. So that's the Canvas site. I do videos on lecture videos on YouTube. Just I feel it's like easier to access. All right, let's go to the syllabus. All right. A lot of this is going to be repetitive, okay? But it's under the syllabus section. Writing for media, there's the course number essentially, okay? It's actually, I think it's, 93? Anyway, there's my email address again, office hours upon request. Fundamentals of writing across all media platforms, like I said, that could be digital media, it could be social media, it could be broadcast media, that sort of thing, or just general fashion newspaper media. Okay. The end of this course, but it all applies the same. We care about the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how. Like all those things, all those answers to all those questions, what they call the W's. Okay, the 5 W's, and then there's also the how, which is an H. We want the answers to that, and we want it in a focused fashion, a string, like a straight string. Okay. It's introductory level for students in the journalism and media studies course. It's meant to build a journalism student skill set from the ground up. Over the course of the semester, students will learn basic rules of grammar. There'll be grammar and everything. I'll care about that, but I'm not going to teach you like an English class. Okay. You got to really like know a lot of that already by the time you get in here. Okay. Identifying the course objectives, identify and analyze characteristics of different styles of media, print-based and digital, essentially. Research, writing, edit content for the first, edit yourself, basically. That's how a lot of things are done now, actually. There's a lot of things I make that a bigger deal when I've taught digital media. That's a separate class. But basically, there's a lot of copy editors that actually, unfortunately, have lost their jobs and everything. So you have to do a lot of editing yourself in news stories now. So, big important thing, don't buy the workbook. I don't use the workbook. I just do straight stories. I assign myself. No workbook, so don't buy that, okay? That's important, okay? If you've already bought it, sell it back, okay? And of course, the style guide, okay? All lectures will be recorded on Tuesday, and the links will be posted on announcements section, and I told you other ways too, by 9 a.m. every Monday, except for the first one, which will be posted on Tuesday, okay? Again, class participation, 30% of your grade. You're supposed to engage with the professor, ask questions, discussion points. There'll be moments where you develop and that's another thing, actually, that's another one is that you'll have to develop your own ideas for assignments a couple of times. So that's another class participation thing, which we'll get into, okay? The key writing assignments, 70% of your grade, okay? The assignments will be announced on Canvas, but also, I'll be doing that also through email. Reading assignments will not be graded directly, but be assessed based on writing performance, okay? Then your grades, a rubric is on the Canvas site. I showed you that. And the different ones, different letters. We have different traditional letter grades here, okay? We go over the typical course policies. Participation is mandatory. I mean, I actually do have like a thing where actually I give out an assignment and actually and I actually have extra credit opportunity for that. And you're basically supposed to pick what would be a good assignment, for that particular week's class, and I give extra credit to what I think is the best one. So I've had people just not participate in that one, so that affects your participation grade. So, all right. All right, this is a big one. Now look, journalism is about like making deadline, and right now, I mean, God, if you were like in charge of a business site or writing for a business site like Bloomberg or Reuters, and there's like business news happens like all the time. That's like the one news, right? It's actually grown and expanded in the last 30 years since the internet came around, because it's actually like better suited for the actual internet world, because news and business happens like every second. There's like stocks that go up and down, the whole thing. So everything's really got to be like 24/7 and on time. And because again, that's actually part of credibility. Now, it's better to be right than to be fast, okay? But you want to be fast too, okay? So, if you're like competing against Bloomberg and you're working for Reuters, and Bloomberg's beating your ass on certain things like all the time, people are going to go to Bloomberg all the time. And then that also matters like in a Google search, because Google will go to the news source that has the news first. Okay, so you want to get things in on deadline. Okay, and I'm giving you like essentially weeks, 1 week essentially to do these stories. So the first drafts must be in by the date allotted, and then this first one is going to be due, again, not graded, but it's going to be due on Monday by midnight. Okay, which is midnight Tuesday actually, but anyway, the first draft's actually 11:59 on Monday. So the first drafts will not, but I do take in first drafts after that, during the first 24 hours, if you're late within 24 hours, okay, after 11:59 on Monday. But I give you, okay, a lower grade, typically 1 grade lower, okay? If it's more than 24 hours late, I don't accept it, it's an F. So you gotta like get those stories in, okay? That's important. Journalism is important. I mean, there's really like, this is not like a typical class where people say like, oh, you can submit that blah 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 because you're a nice guy. No. I understand people will have things that come up. I've had people like come up with like some wild ones, like sometimes, and I know the excuses like my aunt from Alaska, they'll give me some like, faraway place where they think maybe I can't check or something like that. Well, but if there is something that happens in your life, personal, something like that, I do things based on trust. And all right, so basically, yeah, if you you gotta let me know ahead of time if you're gonna like be late or something like that or not, or maybe you need like time. I've had people who do sports for Rutgers, that sort of thing, so that's an issue too. So grade appeals, I've had people like who wonder about that. Okay, I mean, certainly like if you feel like grade is unfair, you can certainly protest it, that sort of thing, and there's a way to do that. I go over, I mean, I do this on the Canvas site too, but I go over like essentially like the different things that we go over. Again, the first half being more about the writing and the second half being more about the reporting. Okay. So you can check that out. Academic integrity. Okay. So I mean, yes, no plagiarism allowed. This whole Chat GPT thing, I give out assignments that I like to think that are actually kind of horned in a way so that like you avoid that. I don't like you using Chat GPT, and please do not. I want you guys to learn how to write. Okay. I've actually you can tell when a Chat GPT story comes across, it's very distinctive. Okay. And I don't consider that original. And if I see that come in, I'm not going to allow it. It's going to be an F, unless, I mean, first draft, I'll allow it, but second draft, no way. Okay. So I'm gonna make that very clear. Okay. in my note to you guys. I consider that essentially like a form of plagiarism, okay? And then other resources, I mean, weather emergencies, things like that. I don't have to really worry about that, but sometimes things happen, okay? And then there's something about myself. Yes, I wrote a book, Legacy of Madness, if you're interested. And I worked for Patch. I worked for Bergen Record newspaper for about almost 10 years. I was editor of New Jersey for Patch.com for 11 years. Well, most as editor, but also other facets too. And then on and on and on. Okay. All right. I'm stopping the sharing right now, and this thing is moving slowly. All right, so that's all I've got for you guys. And I really look forward to teaching you guys. So please email me. Let me know what's going on. Let me know who you are. That's also part of class participation, by the way. Emailing me and let me know what email address you like to use. I gave you that out. And I look forward to interacting with you guys and that sort of thing. And again, I'm recording this before Labor Day weekend, so I hope you have a good Labor Day weekend. Sorry, the summer's ending. And that's it. So I'll be talking to you guys. Thanks very much, and let me know who you are and what you're about.